Hi, and welcome to the New Property Show. I'm Steve McMenamin. Tony, would you like to tell us what's on the show today?
Well, Steve, Rami and Adam discuss their builder-developer business. Our panel discusses part 2 of Would You Buy a House That's Been Flipped? But first up, Shaniya on the ins and outs of conveyancing.
Shaniya, welcome to the New Property Show. We are getting straight into this today. Conveyancing. You're only 27. How'd you get here?
It's been a long journey, Steve. It's been a very long journey for us. Basically, I came into the industry straight out from school. I came from a property background myself. My parents were registered builders. They still are registered builders. So property market's always been in the family, and it was my dream, or my parents' dream in the same, to take over that business. And unfortunately I didn't, but that's okay. I still ended up into the property market. And as soon as I finished out of school, I got an opportunity to actually present in a conveyancing firm as an assistant. Working under reception there, and then basically they unfortunately got made redundant. They made us redundant. Got a bit heartbroken. I then thought, okay, maybe the real estate market is good for me to get into. So was applying for property managers, was applying for real estate opportunities, and then I got approached of where I am now at Conveyancing Hub. And ever since then, I've started right from the bottom. So when I started at Conveyancing Hub, I didn't know much. I knew how to convey, but I was always assisted with someone else. I was here to start by myself, and I did that, and I wouldn't regret it at all. I feel like if you don't start from the bottom, you're not able to work your way up and be put under pressure. So I started off there. I've been with Conveyancing Hub for 5 years now. And I can proudly say that I was able to retrieve my license in that time, and also have become a part of the business as well, which is fantastic. So that's how kind of roughly I started within the conveyancing. I wouldn't know how to do anything else other than conveyancing, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Within the property market, it's so up and down. You see so many different things. When I started conveyancing, it was all paper settlements and there was nothing electronic, and as of 2017 it became electronic. So I've been through the conveyancing market where it started off as paper, ended up into electronic, which means that I started off in the harder area or harder sector of conveyancing. But of course, conveyancing is something that I enjoy, it's something that I love, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
They're still doing things like check settlements. I know you're using PEXA nowadays,
yeah.
But give me an example, for example, where you've got a disbursement to do. Are you still doing 20-person disbursements, or is that
so electronic settlements?
Yep.
We used to have to draw out checks, and then what we would do is we would actually go to the settlement ourselves in the city, and if we'd miss a settlement or if a documentation was wrong, your settlement's finished. You've got to reschedule. So we're always rushing around in the city. It was very stressful at the time. It still is stressful, but in a different kind of stress. So that was what we were pre-17. Now that electronics come in, it's all electronic. So you enter everything in a computer, the bank balance each other out. It's a lot easier, and it's a good thing because people that are coming into the industry, it's a lot easier for them to learn. A lot of people nowadays are so familiarised with computers and how to run a computer, how to run a system. So it's a lot easier, I feel, for a conveyancer to come into the market or into the industry, whereas I started off at a very hard time, but it makes you the person you are today.
So talk to me about, there's 3 different, I guess, transactions that take place apart from the transaction itself.
Yep.
One is going to be the conversation with the banks.
Yep.
I want to hear about the difficulties there. Secondary is the conversation between the agents.
Yep.
And lastly, the conversations between the clients. So how do they vary? So what's causing you the most pain and can really essentially trip up a settlement?
Yeah, Steve, I think the most difficult thing within the conveyancing industry is not a lot of people know what a conveyancer does, that you actually need a conveyancer to help you transact, and the monetary situation of how much a conveyancer costs as well. So when we come across a first home buyer, most likely the agents are going to say, do you have a conveyancer? And they'll be like, what is a conveyancer? Do I actually need it? Can't I act for myself? So as part of our job, we have to educate our clientele on what a conveyancer does. And simply, some conveyancers don't say, oh, we've got to do associated paperwork. It's not just paperwork that we're doing. We're actually guiding the customer. We're actually guiding the clientele throughout the whole transaction, being there from start to finish, monitoring their feelings of, purchasing a new home or selling their investments and things like that. So I think the educational behind what a conveyancer is, it's really important as someone who is servicing a client that you're actually educating your client from start to finish on what you're doing, so that they actually know. So what we feel as though we're dealing with clients is, that's the difference what we have with a client compared to an agent. Whereas when we're dealing with an agent, we come across a little bit more of a difficulty because, of course, the agent is we call them a middleman, middlewoman, because unfortunately they're the face of the clientele. Whereas with us, we sometimes see our clients, but mainly of our paperwork or documentation is done over the computer. So we don't necessarily see the property, we don't see the clientele as much as what the agent does. Agent has a lot of responsibility, and we also rely a lot on what the agent comes back with. So for example, if we have an issue with a final inspection, and they said, my agent told me at the time of sale that this was working and now this and that. Agents are always the blame game because they're the person that's there from start to finish. So as a conveyancer, we try to mitigate that situation. So we say, look, we understand that the agent has been there and may have potentially promised you at the time, but unless something is in writing, nothing can be enforceable. But that is where a conveyancer comes in. A good conveyancer is going to guide their client from start to finish on what they should have in their contract, what is subjected in their contract. If you're not guiding your client throughout the way, your client's then going to say, okay, well, you never advised me at the time that I should put this into my contract saying that all appliances should be in working condition. So when we're dealing with real estate agents, we're kind of like their friend because they're saying, Shaniya, I've got this client really angry at the final inspection. Can you do something? Don't worry, leave it to me. We'll mitigate the situation. We're smoothing it over with the agent.
What about with conveyancers? Sometimes what I feel, say I've recommended a client to an opposing party. Okay, they're acting on the other side of them. To us, I almost feel like an enemy. Because we need that deal to go through. And the other conveyancers being incredibly difficult. But what about their upsell? So I don't try and get involved with that. But there's things like title insurance. There's caveat searches, that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
What are some of the stuff that, let's ask the difficult question, the elephant in the room. So you've got the services. What are some of your upsell services? And why should they actually have them? Is that a profit only just for you guys? Or is it something that's actually has saved a client?
Look, I think the way I do business and the way I've been brought up within the industry is not all a monetary value. At the end of the day, we are servicing a client. We want our clients to leave as a friend. It's not just a transaction to us. And that's the issue in the industry, that a lot of conveyancers see it as a transactional and they'll never come back. They will always come back to you, whether it's their friend, family, a sibling overseas that wants to buy here. Like, we've got to make sure that we're keeping our clientele there. So what is our point of difference to other people within the industry is our upsales. We don't get any commissions for the upsells. We're actually giving the clients opportunities without any costs that we're associated with. So perfect example was title insurance. We're contracted with Stewart Title, who we offer title insurance across to clients who potentially may have difficulties with investigating the property, or there's a pergola that doesn't have a permit. Can title insurance take over that and protect them in that way? So title insurance is a key point. We also have the regulating systems that we have as well, so ensuring that our systems are regulated up to date with all the updates. And also, it's always important as a conveyancer to have a legal aspect behind you as well. So contracting a lawyer or hiring a lawyer beside you, because as a conveyancer, with the legality perspective, we can only argue so much within the industry. So when a dispute comes in, if a conveyancer has a lawyer, I'm not losing the client, I'm just contracting my lawyer to assist with the transaction. So being within a conveyancing business and having those subsections behind you is going to help you with the client, one, and also not let you lose the client, so you're not losing a profit. Of course, at the end of the day, we're here to get paid, we're here to service a client, but if we're going to lose a client because we don't have the required accessibility for the client, it also doesn't look good on a business as well, and they're not going to come back.
What about, let's go again just to this particular question. Let's say settlement's missed. Let's talk about some of the stuff that both your clients and the opposing party. In some instances, people want the settlement to come through. And in some instances, say for example, let's talk about a land purchase. I've got examples where clients have purchased land at 190,000. They've agreed to a 90-day settlement. Everyone's happy. But that particular developer has seen the land's gone up 60, 70 grand. They actually make it incredibly difficult to settle. They've not met these terms, or they literally want to terminate a contract immediately. What are some of the rules around that sort of stuff? So if you miss a settlement, can they instantly just rip up a contract, or do you have a recourse, or you have that 14 days to settle?
It will depend. So the moment that you miss a settlement, you are defaulting in your contract as you're acting, if you were acting on behalf of the purchaser necessarily. If you're missing a settlement, you are defaulting your contract. There is a certain criteria on any contract, whether it is a commercial contract, whether it is a residential sale or purchase. The contracts work the exact same way. Your same general conditions. Of course, the special conditions are going to vary. So depending on what is in your special conditions is what, as a purchaser's conveyancer, we have to act upon. So for example, we've defaulted a contract, we request an extension. It is up to the vendor to confirm whether they're going to give that to you penalty free or not. They say, okay, you're going to pay penalties. We check the default interest rate. If for whatever reason, after the remedy of that default, if it's not yet remedied, they will issue a recession notice. And you've got 14 days to settle. If you don't settle within those 14 days, contract is automatically rescinded, and the vendor can actually sue you for any vendor's loss for that. So there is it's the same structure of a specific contract necessarily. When we're dealing with the vendor's terms contract, it can differentiate quite a little bit. But again, your general conditions are the same. As a conveyancer, we all know what the general conditions are. We all should know what the general conditions are. Your special conditions is what's going to dependent on the act that you're going to take in order to have a contract cancelled. Even extensions with regards to finances and things like that, you've got to check your contract to see what am I going to take on behalf of the client to apply for that extension. So we rely on the contract so much, and that is why it is so important for clients to come to us before they sign a contract. We know how real estate works. Client goes to see a property. The client sees at the open home that there's 4 or 5 couples sitting there. They're all making an offer. That client wants to get the property, but unfortunately, when we're dealing with legalities and we're dealing with contractual obligations, you have to get your documentation reviewed.
100%. And I think
that is the issue.
I think the other thing that you'd bring to the table, I can see how passionate you are, is yes, there's the letter of the law, but there's also reputation and understanding
100%.
Between all parties.
Yep.
We'll give you one more question, and that'll be time, okay? You and I had a discussion this morning about boundaries, people calling before and after work. Yeah. But let's say, for example, how does this work legally? Some of my clients from Perth, you're from Melbourne, how come we're not 24/7? Now, how come, will at some point conveyancing be done once we introduce AI and all that sort of stuff as well? Banks only really operate sort of maybe 9:30 a.m. to 4. Do you see that changing in the next few years? Like, do you think that's going to open up? We have access to funds 24/7, and it's the only industry considering the amount that there's millions upon millions of dollars left on the table, where somebody might want to settle at 7 o'clock at night. Do you ever see that happening? Look,
let's put it in a 5-year span, 5 to 10 year span, where AI may come into play. I don't think AI is going to take over our systems. They're going to take over the communication that we have with the clientele, and that communication may be a 24-hour communication, but when we're actually transacting, PEXA, for example, which is the conveyance system we use, they don't transact after 5 o'clock. And if you've got a bank in Queensland or a bank in Perth, the time difference is very different. So obviously as a conveyancer, we can only transact within the state ourselves. So the time difference isn't really an issue for us. But for example, we've got Bank of Queensland as the incoming mortgagee or the discharging authority. There's a time difference there. So you've also got to marry up to that.
It's a lot of challenges.
Exactly. So there are a lot of challenges, and that's why you've got to be on the ball. You have to be on the ball with that. So I don't think AI will actually take over our systems necessarily that quickly, but I think that the communication potentially will be able to come in with the clientele. Me personally, with the communication that I allow with my clients, I've learned a lot within the industry. I've been through a lot of firms as well, and what I've done is I've taken the mistakes that I've made at those times, or the mistakes that the firms made in those times, and implemented that into the business. We are not a 9-to-5 job. We are a 24-hour cycle, but of course it's important for you to educate your clients on the boundaries. If a client's calling me at 8:30 at night and it's a non-urgent call, why can't you just wait till 9 o'clock in the morning the next day? Even call me at 8:30 in the morning the next day, that's okay.
Everything can always be put into an email.
Correct, yeah. At the end of the day, it can all be put in an email, and sometimes email communication is a lot easier than a phone call, because we could be sitting in bed on scrolling through our emails and be like, yep, I'll quickly respond to that via email. You're most likely going to get a response via email quicker than a phone call. And a lot of families at home after 8 o'clock, getting the kids ready for bed or having dinner and together as a family, and you don't want to outstep that boundary within the industry as well. But also thinking about it on a weekend perspective, on Saturdays we know that's when all the open homes happen, and that's where all the deals are getting locked in. Of course we can't settle on a weekend, we can only settle on a Monday to Friday basis, But a client may be at our auction that day and say, Shaniya, I need you to quickly review the contract. Done. Send it to me right now. We've got to adapt to the clients that way. If you're a conveyance, it's only Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You're not going to make it in the industry.
Well, I think the action's really happening on the Saturday. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to get you back on the show.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the property industry.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into commercial. You've been an amazing guest. We'll see you again
Thank
soon.
you so much for having me, Steve. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Rami and Adam, welcome to the New Property Show. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
I wanted to get an inside scoop. You guys are fairly new to development, and look, we have a range of guests that are on the show. But I think one of your unique propositions is not only are you the developer, you're the builder. Now, this show is built around about education, people having a go, and that sort of stuff as well. Do you want to talk to me about maybe one of your projects you've got going, but really how you did the FISO, how you got off the ground, how you acquired your site, and where it's up to?
Yeah, so we currently one project is it's a 10 lot house and land subdivision. They're side by side, but not adjoined. So there's not townhouses. They're selling.
So 150 mil gap or 200?
Yeah, 150. Yeah, and just brick garage walls.
Yeah.
So we have a bit more profit in them selling them as a standalone house.
Easier for finance too.
Yeah, it is. So but that's currently just in the final stage. We've got one more hurdle at planning, and then we'll look to build at the end of the year.
And with those sort of stolen products, so you've obviously acquired a block of land a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've purchased that at a good price.
Yep.
Yep. You've had to settle on the land.
Yes, we
settled
have.
on the land. So
Yeah.
how long have you owned
We had
land?
for about 3.5-4 months now. So
Yeah, that it's been settled, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a 2-year settlement we had it on.
Yeah.
What about things like holding costs and that sort of stuff? Did you buy the land out, or you've borrowed some funds, or how does that look?
Well, we generally look for properties that can have a long settlement.
Yep.
So we purchased this property, and we were fortunate enough to be able to get a 2-year settlement.
Excellent.
And
so
then
planning in that wise.
Yeah, that's it. We've got heaps of time to do diligence and our planning and so forth, and get our funding sorted, and then once it settles, we go from there. So.
And with the sales of these, so you're obviously going to do your own build. Are these houses all identical, or you've changed up the footprint a little bit, or what have you done there?
Well,
Several of them are the same.
Yeah.
They're not all identical.
Yeah.
The facades are different, and then I guess at the end it'll be whoever buys them will be able to
put their flavour on it.
Little changes, non-structural changes.
And lot sizes for these sort of ones?
They're 350 square metres.
Yeah.
Per block?
Yeah.
That's not a micro site. That's actually it's 528. That's a pretty good block size.
Yeah.
And whereabouts is this project?
It's in
Hallam, yeah.
So what do you expect this sort of sale prices to be in that area? Have you had a look at that?
Yeah, we're predicting about 700.
Yeah, about 700 to 800, yeah.
Mid 700, yeah.
I think that's a good price range in those areas too, because you've got first home buyer grant and you've got some stamp duty savings. That sort of stuff as well. And when will you market these properties?
Probably, it's sort of, in developing, timelines keep changing, so we thought we'd be out of planning quicker than we are. There's just one hurdle that's been back and forth. But hopefully in the coming months, next couple of months,
get it on there,
get it marketed, yeah.
And with the build side of it as well, so you're going to be on site. Are you going to build all 10 at once, or are you going to just go 10 slabs? Or
we will.
Talk to us about how that's going to
Yeah, well, it's sort of that's the way we'll work it. Because they're 10 standalone homes, there'll be 10 separate
10 builds. Yep.
10 builds, 10 homeowners, 10 contracts. But we'll work it in the way that we can do them all at once. If they're spaced out to the owner's needs, we'll pretty quickly lose profit on it. Yeah.
I think with a project like that, having you do have an advantage, but you're going to lay 10 slabs, let 10 settle.
That's right.
Then start on a frame, and then just work all the way through, and just have your trade sort of working.
Yeah. So we'll build it. We'll build it the same as a townhouse development. Yeah. So they're all built together, just with a couple of little tweaks so they're houses, not townhouses. Yeah.
And why have you guys become developers?
Look, I think we've both been in the property industry for a long time, whether it be building, whether it be renovating, investing. I guess we're both good friends, just a couple of blokes that have had a dream to get into developing, and we've had our fair share in the property market. I know it is a tough, we both believe it's a tough time to get into developing. We understand that, but like Adam was saying before, I think we've got an advantage being the builders as well. And I guess it's just one of those dreams. We have a bit of a unique way of getting our projects going by building like a community with a lot of people, hopefully, that we know, people that we may not know, but people don't know where to invest their money at the moment, especially in property. And we like to think that we give good return on those, and it's like a syndicate where we bring people together and everyone can invest into a project we believe that's going to do really well, and then we go from there. Everyone makes some wealth for their future, makes those returns.
I think the way to build really is to work together as a syndicate, and obviously not having to rely on a builder on the outside, but having that in-house is certainly going to be a significant advantage, and that time will come to pass. Where do you think your next projects might be? What are you looking for as a developer?
Something with profit.
That's right.
Would you go outside the state, or are you going to stick within?
No.
I think we'll stay here.
I think with us wanting to build it ourselves, it has to be something we don't want to drive several hours. So definitely around the area.
Southeast suburbs.
We looked for quite a long time at smaller projects. 2 houses, 3, 4. We looked doing luxury ones, all sorts of different options for ages, like couple of years, and with the building costs and the house prices, everything now, just nothing stacked up. So I think where the money is for us is in the larger developments.
I think places regional like Garfield, Tynong, those areas there where they're still a little bit underdeveloped, and you can still pick up 5 acre lotterage. You can also get a couple of acres on there. So how big is this block that you've purchased?
It's I can't remember off the top of my head now. It's been a while since we looked at the plans.
So we don't know the exact amount, but
Okay. And would you recommend anyone watching to be a developer, or get together with your mate and start building houses? Or
I definitely would. I mean, it's not. As anyone, I guess I'll tell you, it's not easy. But I mean, we've done it for the enjoyment. Something we spoke about for ages doing. And now that we're finally in it, started it, trying to grow it, it's the enjoyment of the journey too.
Would you mind if we come out and have a little look at it at some point? And,
of course, by all means.
See what's going on as the project comes up. I think as the new property expands, the show, it'd be nice to see these developments coming out and give a visualisation to our clients out there.
Definitely.
And of course, if they want a good buy, obviously Hallam, it's quite rare to find 10 house and land packages in Hallam at the moment, especially brand new, because it's quite a tight pocket of land.
Exactly right.
It was a good find, and so they're 4-bedroom single-story homes, so they're a cheap, like when I say cheap, like they're not. There's the build wise. There's not a lot of engineering and structure in it, so for us,
they're easier
turnover,
to build.
Easy turnover,
It's being a single story and everything like that.
Perfect for first home buyers or just people trying to look to get into the market, or because there's a big demand at the moment for housing, and that's what we want to target as well through it.
And what about you guys doing your day job? So what else keeps you busy? Because as a developer, they obviously chews up a lot of time, and you're waiting. What's the rest of your weeks look like?
Look, my original vehicle of income is a chain of barbershops. So because I've got a background in renovating, I've been able to open up these shops and renovate them myself. So obviously it's a lot more feasible opening them up. So opening up a chain of those, it just gives me really good cash flow to go and invest into building and developing and stuff like that. And I think for anyone out there that wants to, I think go for it. I think everyone's limited to what they do. I've got a big diversity with what I do, a whole heap of different things. And I think, you'd be surprised what you actually love doing and what you have a passion for. And developing was one for us. It's been like that for many years. And so, that's
what
me really.
Well, full-time building. So anything extensions, renovations, developments. We are also building for clients, a couple of townhouse developments and that sort of space now. We were a lot in renovation extensions, but moving more out of that because it's sort of quite quite time consuming. Even the smaller projects sort of chews up a lot of my on-site time. So we want to move, as we grow the development side, also want to focus on building for the development side too.
I see a lot of potential here with what you're doing anyway. That's hence I just want to see the questions, but it's those getting those first couple up off the ground. Like obviously you bought the project a couple of years ago and then you're waiting for planning and that sort of stuff, but ultimately you'll be in a position eventually where you've got one project starting and another one finishing.
Exactly.
The kind of goal there. But I think the biggest thing that I'm loving what you guys are doing is building that community. So I would suggest is working together. Working with a force is probably stronger. It's also easy to get your development funding. I guess if you're working with the syndication, that sort of stuff. But I want to thank you guys for being amazing guests on your property show, and looking forward to tracking your journey. It's exciting to have people that are new to the industry with developing, because we've all started with renos.
Yeah, that's right,
now
exactly.
Doing your first 10 lot subdivisions is amazing. You should be congratulated.
Yeah, it's a big community thing. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Done.
Thanks, Steve.
What are some of the common things that you would find that could go wrong?
With the inspections?
Yep.
Rotten stumps.
Yep.
There were issues with the structure of the property, the structure of the roof, the frames. I also saw every so often minor defects being classified as major defects. There were warped doors in a bathroom, which was classified as minor, which to me didn't appear to be. But then I'm not the specialist. But again, just for clarity, what those clauses do is it allows the buyer a very specific, very strict right in that the buyer doesn't have to go behind the report and consider whether the report is accurate. The vendor doesn't have the right to challenge the report. If it specifically uses the words major structural defect, the buyer has a right to terminate the contract, even if the vendor believes it's not major and the buyer believes it's not major. So as long as the report has the correct words, the buyer can walk away. And also for clarity, what the contract typically allows is for the buyer to terminate the contract. It doesn't allow for renegotiation of price. It also doesn't allow the buyer to demand that the vendor rectify any pre-existing defects and damages. Now they can reach an agreement through negotiation, and if they do, fantastic. But the buyer does not have that right to demand it.
Okay. And what about you, Trev? Would you recommend buying a house to flip? Would you do one yourself?
I have looked at it myself. To date, nothing really stacked up as far as profit and things goes from the properties. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in doing one myself. So yeah, I think if you can make it work and financially it's viable and it stacks up and you're going to make a profit, because really that's why you're doing it. I think as long as that all stacks up, then why wouldn't you do it?
Let's say, for example, you've got an 80s regional home. What are some of the items that you would change in a home to give it the most value? So let's work on the other side of it. Let's now pretend we're all flippers. What are some of the things that you would immediately change? You've got a 20-30 grand budget. Do you want to...
It's very tight.
Did you say 200 to 300?
No, I said 20 or 30.
You just missed the zero.
No, this is it. This is why you're on the new property show. I'm pushing against the old properties. But you've got a 20-30 grand budget, okay? You want to give the house a bit of an uplift, and I think that's actually affordable. I think you could do it. But what are some of the things, where would you start?
Paint and floors.
Paint and floors?
Yep. That, as long as, the biggest thing I think it'd be, as long as your bathrooms and things are structurally sound. If you walked in there and you could see, rotted out timbers and things in your bathrooms, obviously you're going to have to spend some money there. But if you walked in and it looked all right, a coat of paint and some new flooring, and a house completely changes.
Yep. Okay, where would you start? You don't have to the 300 mark, you get a little bit.
Definitely, what you said there. Front door, I think, is really important. Again,
street appeal,
high ticket item. Styling furniture from a leasing point of view to style it. But really, by the time you do floors, paint, lighting, you can get away with lighting. I know on a place that I did. One of my own places, I scout around and go to Beacon Lighting and get the 50% off, and I buy it and then I use it and it looks amazing. But you either know how to do it or you don't. So again, by the time you spend 20-30 grand, I did a bathroom renovation last year and thought I'd do it myself for 20, and it cost me 60.
Wow.
You know, and that was a bathroom renovation with another room and epoxy resin, and you just go on and on.
But I won't be hiring you, I can tell you that.
No, look, Schmidt, no, but it can be done for 20, 30 grand if that's your budget. But my other tip would be, do as much as you can. You know, like painting. You know, do the painting yourself. You know, get on YouTube and learn it. You know, painting's not that hard, right? You know, flooring, rip it up yourself, right? If you've got carpet, get in and get the carpet done. You know, it's not that hard to do that. Sure, bring the layers in, you know, but do as much as you can in terms of the labour. If you can't paint, learn to paint.
Avanthi, where would you go?
I think I resonate with what they said. Painting would make a massive difference just in the look and feel. General dressing, flooring, and perhaps gardening, and just making it look tidy and nice, generally. Flowers.
Yeah, I'd probably, on a 70s or 80s home, knock out a wall, probably open it up. There's a lot of hallways, but more open plan living. I'd go to the wardrobes, and most of those are opening. Change those to mirrored sliding for a couple of grand. Kitchen, probably upgrade the appliances, definitely the cooker. You might be able to get one of those on Gumtree for $1,000 or $2,000. Definitely change the laminate into stone. Would definitely do that, and probably laminate the home with maybe carpet to the bedrooms. And yeah, I'd agree. Really good, nice front door. Get all that sorted, and probably just look at the front landscaping. Probably just reseed the lawn there with a bit of quick curb, and you'd probably do that at 20, 30 grand. Bathroom too. Shower over bath is a no for me. I'd rather delete the bath and have an 1800 shower with double shower heads. It's amazing what you can do when you really open up those bathrooms. It's fantastic. I did see a house recently where one of my friends lives in, and I think there was 4 to 5 doors in one area that just kept crashing into each other. I'm like, somebody's just put door upon door. Even going to a cavity door might have been a change. But I think whether you're for flipping or you're against it, the problem that we just, I guess, established just then is that some of us would do it ourselves. Now, your paintings on YouTube, now depending on your subscription, you might have watched a 15-minute YouTube. The issue is with the flipping side of it is there is money to be made. I do believe in getting your hands dirty, but hence probably stay away from it. You're better off almost buying your own property for 100 grand under and doing it yourself and getting the right trades, and probably getting a qualified builder in that's got access to the right trades. So you need to build the right team. But most of the time your friends are going to have those skills and that sort of stuff. Really good topic today, guys, flipping. So put your hand up if you would flip a property.
It's not me.
Put your hand up if you buy a flipped property.
Probably me.
So basically we'd flip them, but don't be the person buying your own property. All right, really fun debate. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for this week, and thank you for joining us. If you want to see the full interviews, check out our website, thenewpropertyshow.tv, and we'll see you again next week.